Mental and emotional stress can flare your autoimmune disease. We all give stress lip service, saying, yes, we know stress affects us, but when it comes down to it, we don't take the time from a self-care perspective to give equal weight to eliminating stress that we do in, say, making sure we follow good nutritional habits or we get our exercise in, etc. Well, today I want to show you how a case in my practice of mental emotional stress drove a flare in Crohn's disease in a person after they had not had a flare in over 5 years. This is related to postpartum separation from the baby as being the mental emotional stressor for this mother. I'm Dr. John Bartemus, and I'm putting the pieces together to help you live a life at optimal. If you have an autoimmune disease and you've had a long period of no flare where you've done very well, and all of a sudden you're experiencing a flare and you can't put your finger on it. You can't point to a change in your diet or a cross-contamination with a food that you react to as the cause. You can't point to overtraining or undertraining from a physical activity standpoint as the cause. You don't have a change in your sleep habits or in toxic exposures as the cause. Then you need to consider mental emotional stress as a potential cause to your autoimmune flare. That's right. You could have a flare in your autoimmune disease without your nutrition falling off or physical inactivity, or one of the things that we definitely go to as our what went wrong things to evaluate. Today, I want to share a case with you of a woman who has Crohn's disease and hasn't had a Crohn's flare in over 5 years. But she recently had a flare, and the flare was associated with the mental and emotional stress associated with going back to work after her maternity leave. When she first noticed the flare occurring, she reached out to me and wanted to run updated labs to see how bad it was. So we ran those labs. We ran blood testing and we ran stool testing to get an idea of the state of her immune system, of her inflammatory levels, of her GI functioning. And we could then therefore point to a physiologic dysfunction and then make nutritional recommendations, etc., to correct it. Well, we did that testing, and the tests showed a little bit of inflammation, but they were benign in terms of what you would expect to see in a Crohn's flare. So that led us back to digging into her history and finding the real cause, which is the mental emotional stress of going back to work and being separated from her child. So how does that mental emotional stress actually drive the Crohn's flare? What's the physiology? Let's draw that out. And you may be interested to know it's a brain-gut mechanism of Crohn's flare. So we have your brain. And first, she has to have the stressor. And so the stressor occurs, and that stressor is picked up in a part of your brain called the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is the thermostat of your brain. It's sensing everything that's going on. So when that stress occurs in the hypothalamus is going to release corticotropin releasing hormone, which tells the pituitary, hey, tell the adrenals to release cortisol and epinephrine. We're in a fight or flight mode and we need to adapt. So the pituitary tells the adrenals through adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone, hey adrenals, do your job. Release cortisol and epinephrine so this person can run or fight the tiger. Run from the tiger or fight the tiger. So the adrenals, they answer the call. They release cortisol and they release adrenaline or epinephrine, norepinephrine. And here's where the brain-gut axis comes in. When you release epinephrine specifically, or adrenaline, that promotes leaky gut. So the adrenaline reorganizes the tight junctions in your GI tract and promotes leaky gut. So that allows food particles in deeper than they should be, in larger proteinaceous chunks than they should be, which stimulates the immune system and drives inflammation. that also allows microbes in that probably shouldn't be in. So you could have a dysbiosis, and those microbes drive GI inflammation. Also, when you're stressed, the sympathetic nerves from the brain are going to drive adrenal release of adrenaline, and they're also going to change the permeability of the GI tract, again promoting a more leaky phenotype. Now, the leaky gut will increase the GI inflammation. So we have GI inflammation, and we have pain, and so the GI pain is communicated back to the brain through nerves from the GI tract, so a brain or a gut-brain loop, and so the pain furthers the stress and furthers this mechanism. So this is physiologic explanation of how mental emotional stress could flare your autoimmune disease in absence of a gluten contamination or physical inactivity or a toxic exposure. So if you have an autoimmune disease and you're flaring and you don't know why, consider the mental emotional aspect of your life and clean up anything you need to do there. This patient, we didn't have a whole lot for her to do from a supplement standpoint. There was nothing to change from a lifestyle standpoint other than increasing the me time. She has to take care of herself and increase the mindfulness practices that she does so that she can increase her parasympathetic nervous system, which inhibits the fight or flight stress response, allows her to calm down, decrease the emotional mental stress, and therefore quiet the flare by promoting a tight gut barrier, so you're not letting things in that shouldn't be in, which then is decreasing the inflammatory stimulus in the gut, which then is decreasing the pain and putting this fire out. If you're someone like this person that is dealing with this and you need help, you should reach out to a functional medicine practitioner who can walk you through these steps, figure out the pieces to your puzzle, and then make the best recommendations to help you get back to a life at optimal.